and read the minutes from last week. So let's take a minute or two and look at that. Hey, Andrew.
Sorry about that, everyone. Had some
No worries.
connectivity issues.
Not a problem. We're reading the minutes from last month, and then we'll take a vote in just a minute.
Great.
Okay, any edits or comments from the minutes from last month? Any changes? Here comes Jan.
Hi, sorry about that, but
No worry.
with this laptop, if I go in, connect to my computer in the library, I can't, there's no microphone or camera because it's that which is in my office, which is not where I am.
Okay.
So, yeah, Chris, the answer to your question is no, I don't have that balance.
No worry, Jan. We just went through the minutes. We're asking if there were any changes. I don't think there are any so far. All right. All in favor of approving? Would someone like to make a motion? First, I'll make it official. Sorry. Would someone like to make a motion? Let's get back to Robert's rules. Who would like to make a motion? Andrew will make a motion. First motion. Would someone like to second that motion? Chris Rogers, terrific. All in favor? All right, minutes are approved from last month. Wonderful. Okay, welcome everyone. So the agenda, the agenda's got a bit of a different format, and I did want to call to everyone's attention that I think I made a mistake, Christina, when I sent it to you. Under the town of Fairfield, it just says name of board or commission. I've been doing this for a few months now. It will now say Fairfield Public Library. It says it all below that, but that's just a formality. There are a few also changes within the order of the agenda. So we've now condensed old business is sort of open. There are no items. Any old business item like COVID updates are moved under the library report, which is now led by Scott with additional color from Jan. So the library report is going to cover COVID as well as the strategic plan operations report. So that's the big change there. Before we get into the core meeting, I want to give everyone a chairman's report. This is now the second time I'm going to give everyone a year in review. So sit back and enjoy my narrative for a few slides. I'm going to share some content here, and if you could just bear with me 1 second, find out where we are. Let's see. I don't use WebEx all day long, and so I'm not familiar with these new. I'll just share my screen. How about that? All right, cool. Can you see my screen? Terrific. Nope, you don't want to see the credentials of Epsilon. You want to see this. Okay. All right, cool. All right. Can you see the full slideshow? All right, good. So year in review. This is the Board of Trustees year in review. This is not necessarily what Scott has sent to the town. So there are just a few things similar to last year's format. I think a number of you are familiar with it. Peter might not have seen this. So let's go through a few things. I've got some transitions here just to go one by one. So if we look at, a lot of the annual reports will go by the number. So this is just sort of like my title here for this opening slide, that we conducted 12 meetings, which is great. Not all boards conduct 12 meetings through the year. Sometimes there's a break in the summer, but we did consistently do 12 meetings because we were also searching for a new town librarian. 2 of them were in-person hybrid and 10 were virtual. 1 of them were off agenda, which was both hybrid for all the interviews. So these are the meetings that were taking place. If we think about capital investments, this is really a combination of 2 years. And I'm sort of rounding the number to $250,000, which includes really the 2020 and 2021 years, because we did approve some additional amounts that were frozen in 2020. And I know that this is a number I think that we communicated through even Brenda's newsletter, if I recall. So pretty significant investment from our endowment to the library, which is terrific. There were some changes with the trustees. Duncan had concluded his term. Peter is our new trustee that begins his new term. And I've also listed out the grid here in terms of all of the members, their role, and the term expiration. So mine is coming up in 6 months. Again, I can't emphasize enough the importance of the slate change and also the succession. Remember that chair role is coming up, and then also secretary and treasurer are going to be voted on for the next year. So some things to think about, as well as a new trustee seat. And that process will probably begin sometime around March or April. Okay, by the numbers. Then if we look about notable happenings, when I did this last time, I did it by a slide by quarter. I put this all into one timeline, so it's a little bit easier. So if we think about the first sort of quarter, even though this is not quarterly by, our fiscal calendar, I always look at it in terms of the calendar year, because that's how our schedule is set as a board, January through December. So some notable happenings, not just notable highlights, because not everything might be a highlight, like the elevator not have passed inspection. So, although that's not in this report. So if we think of the first, what I call quarter, January through March, completed our space planning phase 1, which is terrific. We established the Google Drive folders, which is always a great resource for lots of documents. We established a new roadmap and also the space planning committee. We refreshed or began the project for our strategic plan. There were some videos that were done. The folks at A2V Media did a great promotional video, and then Jill did her PSA video. So some cool things that happened in the first quarter. In the second quarter, April through June, unfortunately, Dr. Murtha announced her resignation, but that also gave us an opportunity for paving the way for Scott to join us. So we then at that time opened up the search committee, hired Bradbury Miller. So that process really started to take shape in June. The space planning phase 2 began. We also, through Chris's guidance, worked with Vanguard to complete the custodial process, which was very long with lots of, financial services, red tape and forms, but we finally got through it. Thank you, Chris. That was just terrific. We're now in a great spot with Vanguard. And really just the endowment in general. We went through the audit. We created this terrific new custodial arrangement. We're in just a great spot with that. And then also we welcomed Peter, which actually that should have been in July, as our new trustee, because that was his first month. Then the third quarter, July through September, the study rooms expanded from 5 to 10. It was completed and signed off in September. And Yahoo, the Woods elevator passed inspection after, I think, probably 2 years, maybe even 3. I think it was probably 3 years. It was like a long, drawn-out drama. But that's terrific. That's completed. We completed the process with Semi and the final interviews for the town librarian. And during that time, we also had Jan as our interim director, and terrific support from Jan and Nancy during a time where that was needed because the new director did not start for 2 months afterwards. And then the strategic plan was approved. So we went through, a lot in the year all the way up through September. That was a lot of accomplishments, a lot of really notable happenings and highlights. And then in the last quarter, October through December, there was the Friends Food Truck Festival, which was terrific, although I couldn't attend. The write-up was amazing. The weather in that weekend was a big hit. Everything worked out really well. So that was great for the Friends and a terrific contribution to the library. And welcome, Scott. Hooray again, appointed as our new town librarian and director of Fairfield Public Library. We're thrilled to have you as part of our organization and to be working with you. There was also the Friends annual meeting that a few of us attended. That charter revision process with the town began in October. That goes through next fall. And then we also did establish the very beginnings of a new fundraising committee with Peter. So looking at a timeline, there's some great things that we went through, really just to sort of timestamp everything and just get a sense of, hey, what did we do as a board and as a group together? There are a lot of really notable things. All right, I also want to put this in here because this was the second year that the staff of the library did their infographic, which is terrific. And this might be a sneak peek clarification. Is this coming in this Friday's newsletter or this Saturday's newsletter? Is that correct? Jen and Scott?
I don't think we've decided when we're going to put this out.
Okay.
We want to time it as close to public hearings as possible.
Got it. Okay, great. So again, this is the presentation for the board. We're not sharing this, wide audience, but this infographic will be coming soon in the newsletter, and also some copy on either side. Those bullet points were things that I think, Scott, you submitted to the town, or Jan did, in terms of our accomplishments or what we did this year. Okay, and then I'm going to round this out in terms of what worked well and areas that are opportunities for us. So just a few bullets that I feel that worked really well. So without a doubt, number one is the dedication of the staff to our patrons and to our brand, and continuing to work through COVID and staff changes. So hats off to the staff and to all the leaders in both branches. You all are really the reason why the library runs and operates so well, and why the town responds well to your tremendous dedication. So that always works well. And this past year, last 2 years, have really proven your resolve and resiliency and creativity and dedication to the brand. So thank you. Number two here is the board has been very consistent. There's been great involvement with committees, with officer roles, with just general attendance in the meetings. So I think that's just, really telling of a board that is involved and very consistent. And it also makes it a pleasure to be working and serving the board in a chair role. So thank you all for that. We went through kind of the next gen of the space planning phases, which is terrific. That's really starting to take shape. The library in both branches is really showing some real improvements, both functional and from the aesthetic, which is really great. We've now agreed to a capital investment schedule, which is really going to help us with planning, with strategic investments, and then such. We had a really good process with looking for the new director. Once Dr. Murtha tendered her resignation, we tapped into Bradbury Miller, who we've worked really well with before. We went through their process. We vetted out from, I think, 18 to 8, down to 4, down to 1. And so we went through a really good process. And it was, I think, a really good thing for all of us on the committee and the trustees to go through that, because we did find a terrific town librarian for the next generation of the library. I think that the communication with the town and all the First Select offices has been really good and very consistent. That communication and transparency is just a terrific conduit between the town and the library. And the last one are, we developed some new committees, or established some new committees. The Space Planning Committee with Andrew, thank you so much, and help with Jan, has been, I think, in its almost a full year now, and that's running very well. And a new one with fund and grant raising, which is really kind of at the beginning stage of that, but with Peter's experience and our involvement and the development with the Friends organization, that's going to take some shape. And then rounding out some opportunities that I think the board and the library should consider, that we could really evolve and really focus on, not necessarily categorized in what didn't work well. I always look at what's the positive here, like what are the opportunities for us. So the first one is really looking at the strategic plan that we approved and governing that and following that and reporting on that on a regular basis. That I think can really be the compass that helps drive us and guides us. The second one, this is no particular order. I listed the like a QuickBooks reporting for all of our capital investment spend. So we have a place that we can point to and say, when did we draw that down, or how much did we, and when? We'll at least have a timestamp and have a good way of being able to manage the spend, the dates, any invoices, etc. And I believe that that's something that might take place towards the end of March or maybe the beginning of April. It's a great opportunity so we can move out of maybe just an Excel format and can really help us with our planning, our forecasting, and just budgeting in general from our own endowment completely outside of the operational budget. The third one is updating the strategic roadmap of capital investment. So we're almost towards the second to third sort of phase of the roadmap that we established about a year ago that we've been looking at. So I think the opportunity is for us as a board to really look at that again in the first half of the year and make some revisions, start to figure out what might be next in terms of capital investment beyond space planning, furniture, and other things that we had ideated on, but we haven't put anything sort of formal on that roadmap. It's a good opportunity for us. And I think with that, it's always good to sort of stay a little bit ahead, at least 12, 18 months ahead to figure out what are we investing in. We've talked a little bit about Peter and fundraising. That's a great opportunity for us, and also the Bond with a Friends org. I'm always a big fan of advocating for developing a new website. When the timing is right, I think it's a great opportunity for the library to modernize to today's sort of like user experience online. The content and the programs are terrific. It really just will benefit from a new, more modern web experience. The last two pieces, I'll round this out. Obviously, the officer slate and trustee term changes. I talked about this at the beginning of this meeting. That's something we always want to pay attention to. I didn't put on here budget advocacy, so we always want to stay attuned to that. That's going to begin very shortly. And then the last one here are the town charter revisions to make sure that we're involved with those meetings when they come up and we're advocating on behalf of the library for any revisions we want to make. So with that, that is my year in review. I will pause and certainly open it up for any comments. You name it, any sort of feedback. I welcome anyone's input on the year in review.
I'll have a comment.
Great.
I thought it was great. Thank you for such a thorough presentation, David. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing as our chair. I think it goes unsaid sometimes about how you really elevated the role.
Thank you.
And how much we all appreciate that. One thing I was going to comment on, just in terms of, and this is really for, I guess, for Andrew and the team. I mean, yeah. As we go forward, or Scott, excuse me, not Andrew. Is that infographic. I know we always have a very impressive infographic with the stats that we share with the town and that we talk through, I think, when we go into forecasting and budget reviews. I would say if there's a way that we can kind of show if there's been growth in certain areas, like percentages year over year, how it's, the web part obviously was a huge dominant force, but in terms of the amount of visits from last year and to the year before when we first started dealing with COVID, I think that could be really an impressive thing versus just seeing the stats. So they actually have some kind of setting so they can understand it a little bit better.
Hey, Jill, it's a great suggestion. When I was doing this year in review, I did a side-by-side comparison of those two, thinking just about that. And the numbers, they don't really line up. I mean, everyone is always looking for, in business and marketing and in finance. When you look at like a year to date from a previous time period, what's the improvement percentage? So I'm not positive that the match is going to show that it improved, because in 2020 was really the lockdown. And in 2021, there was some lockdown. So I don't know if it's going to line up the same way. Scott and Jane, do you know what I'm saying? And would that make sense?
So if you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner where it has items borrowed, there's a little arrow next to that number. So we're already working on that concept of wherever there's statistics that there's growth, you'll see that little arrow next to that number. But David's right. It's kind of hard. It's not really an apples to apples comparison.
Mhm.
I think if we did the previous year, we've got growth also in terms of, in-person programming attendance. We can definitely look at these numbers a little harder and see if there's anything more that we can pull out that was growth. Circulation had growth, which is really unusual for public libraries these days. So that's why we were excited to put that arrow next to it. Most of our numbers are relatively close to flat, but we'll re-review and see if we can pull some stuff out. I look at statistics a little differently, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit during my report.
Mhm.
But again, happy that or maybe, yeah. So we
Yeah.
saw an increase in items borrowed, which is fantastic. Curbside, we actually saw an increase, so we could put an arrow next to that.
That's
Program
massive.
our attendance is up. So
Mhm.
actually, there's a couple different places that we could probably.
Yeah,
It's about-
The other
even
thing-
if it's just for context, Scott, I mean, because to me, I think the folks, the finance folks that are looking at this, I'm just trying to give them some context. I mean, obviously showing increases. I mean, the curbside thing is so amazing. The fact that you did 12,000 in 2020 and you did 18,000 in 21. I mean, I was blown away in 2020 when you did 12,000. I thought that was so exciting and amazing. It's just about for me, giving these folks context so they have a bebetter understanding.
It's Jill, that's funny because my conversation with one of my staff members today, our talented teen librarian, I was explaining to her that my approach is I recognize most people who run for office, especially those who are on the finance board, there's a business background there. And golf and baseball, so it'll be an interesting conversation. But there's a business background there, and so it's really, my approach is always, sorry, my phone's now suddenly making noise. My approach is always from a business perspective. So I agree. They do want to see a little bit of growth. They do want to see a little bit of a return on investment, or at least reasons why there needs to be an increase in certain areas. So I think, Jill, you hit the nail on the head, and we'll do a little bit more because there are some numbers we can show that there's growth.
Yeah, definitely. And Jill, thanks so much for mentioning it. There are definitely a few of them that could certainly be highlighted. And one that I just noticed, which would be, I think, something we really want to promote is if you look at the items borrowed, during sort of the 2020 lockdown, it was about half and half print and digital. Look at how much more the physical has increased.
Yeah.
And we know that, advocating for materials at budget season, we've got, a lot of thinking that doesn't quite understand how important the physical materials still are.
At the same time, David, I'm very curious when I look at, I immediately when I saw the 2021, I wondered what 2020 and 2019 were regarding visitors and also items borrowed. So it'd be really interesting to see what those numbers are in 2019 to see if there are some things that are going to stick. Like what were our numbers regarding items borrowed percentage-wise in 2019? And are we seeing that now digital is making more of a, if are more folks figured it out? Curbside, is that going to be something we're going to stick with forever? Visitors, what were our website numbers in 2019? So just to show that, these are some things that we have embraced because of the pandemic too, and some changes that have happened. And then there's I always feel like numbers are great, but I always want to hear, and this, like stories, like the qualitative. I want to hear like, you know,
Almost like
what-
testimonials. Yep.
yeah, the sell the story, like why, you know, like what is it, what's the meaning, like what, how have we,
Yeah.
you know, so Scott, I see you going like, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a couple things I want to do here. I mean, this is great that they do this because a lot of libraries I've joined, I view these as community reports. This is what goes out to the community infographics, but definitely, you know, I have a letter on my desk from somebody who just sent us a check, and it's got a really good quote that we can pull out of it. So
Yay.
maybe a couple testimonials do have this as two-sided. On one side is this great infographic. On the other side is things that people have told us and feedback that we've
That's-
received.
I gotta do that.
The other thing that we're going to do with this, that Mary and I are going to sit down, we're going to actually make this a bookmark, because
Oh,
handing
nice.
people a piece of paper, you know, it's great, and some people will look at it and they'll love it, or having it up. But having a bookmark that we stick in people's books as they walk out the door,
That's
this
cool.
is really something that they're going to use. They're going to look at on a continual basis, and that'll really promote the library. And we're also going to work on social media, and hopefully everybody will share these. But something for us to put on our Twitter, and on our Instagram and on our Facebook that go out that people can share. And these are all kind of tried and true tested ways to kind of get your information out there. It's really the timing of when you're doing it. You know, you need to do it so that it's in conversations around the town right before really those public hearings happen.
Yeah,
That's
good
great.
call. Terrific, good feedback.
It is very difficult to make those comparisons though, because COVID didn't hit on a fiscal year. So
True. Darn you,
if you
COVID.
notice, the 2020 graphic is really, it's on the calendar year, because the fiscal year really didn't make any sense at all. Just like you couldn't talk about curbside because we didn't start it until June. So we did the best we could last year with trying to highlight things that we thought we did really well,
Yeah,
which we did.
it's a very
That's
good.
great.
They don't, it's very difficult to compare year over year during this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, again, great job with it. I think that this can certainly be used across many different, you know, mechanisms. And thank you all for, you know, sharing that with me in advance so I could put it into the year-end report. Wonderful. Anything else on the year-end report or questions of the chair?
I'll just say that when you look at that year-long thing, it's amazing. I mean, I'm very proud of being able to work with this board, because you have really done a fantastic job in a very difficult year.
Well, you know, over the weekend, and thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. Is that I just look back at all the minutes. I look back at all the agendas and all the minutes, and all of the files. I'm like, you know, I've started putting it together and taking notes before I built the timeline. And then I look back, I'm like, wow, there's a lot that we did there. And it's kind of cool to sort of timestamp it, like, hey, when did we do this? There it is. So great stuff. And great job.
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you for that. That was very helpful to see that, and thanks for your leadership.
You're
the
welcome.
board.
And I'll
So-
hand off these files. So the next chair that is sitting in front of me, one of you is the chair coming up. And I'll hand you the files and you can use it. All right. So that's the chairman's report. Let's move on now to old business. There are no items that are called out. So if anyone has any old business you'd like to bring up, please raise your hand.
David, we do have the photo policy,
Great.
which made it back to us. It was in the packet that went out.
Got
Has
it.
a red line version. It's not a major change.
Okay.
It's pretty much, except for changing some wording,
Yep.
which I knew was coming. It's pretty much the policy you were all comfortable with last go around.
Okay. Do we want to make it easy? And I'll just share it on screen right now. So we're showing the track changes here in terms of the grammar and the wording changes. Scott, so was this based on the review with the town attorney?
Yes,
Okay. And are these track changes yours or the town attorney's?
they're the town attorneys.
There we go. Okay. Does anyone on the board need time to review this outside of this meeting that we would vote on at the next meeting, or do we want to look at this and take a vote on it now?
I would say look at it and take a vote now. I already read through it. This seemed like there were very
Okay.
few changes. It seemed quite reasonable. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe others feel differently.
Scott, were you pleased with the changes that came through?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then if you're recommending it and what we had seen last time based on the draft with these, basic changes, then I'm good if we want to take a motion to then vote for it. Any objections to that? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is Jill, Lori. I make a motion to approve the new photography recording policy.
Terrific. Would someone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Christina, all in favor? All right, it's passed. Wonderful. Scott, that's great. It's good that we've got that. That's wonderful. Question for you. How is that policy going to be communicated? Is it something that lives on the website? Is there signage up in the library? How does that get communicated?
Yeah, so we'll put it on the website. We probably, not sure if we post, Jan, do we post any policies physically in any of the locations?
Well, the code of conduct, I think. Yeah, I think we do post some things like this would be appropriate to have somewhere on a bulletin board.
Okay, so we'll post it. What's going to happen is an email will go out to staff tomorrow with a copy of the policy, letting everybody on staff know what the policy is all about, probably a memo, just saying this is what the policy is about. Here's the process if we have a situation that we think needs to be brought to our attention. Then we'll ask for it to be posted in the buildings and put up on the website.
And does something like this also get proactively communicated through like a newsletter? Is it appropriate to put in the newsletter, or?
I would not poke the bear with putting it out there and publicizing it.
Yeah, okay. All right. No problem.
I think you don't want to draw attention to it because then somebody might test it, so to speak.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for getting those updates through town legal counsel and passing. Is there anything else that we wanted to bring up in terms of old business? Okay, we are going to move on to item number 5, space planning. Andrew.
Thanks, David. The latest on space planning, we have the updated, I don't know if you want to call it phase 1B, but really it's really our phase 2 of the space planning. I'm sorry, the furniture plan. Jan sent over the updated estimates just before the new year. We're looking at about $106,000 with regards to the mezzanine seating areas, the printing, the computer areas, and some of the study rooms. I think I was talking with Chris earlier today, and with that estimate, the quote was for it's called $107,000, and we'll address the majority of what we were looking for in phase 2. We still have a few things to finish up with phase 3, but knowing that the way pricing is going and how things can change and the estimate can go up, it's already gone up from the last time we talked, is to ask Jan to play, or ask for the order to be placed so that we can lock in that pricing and prevent any further price increases. So working through it with Chris, we're looking at about, I think, what do we align on, Chris? The overall for furniture, I think we looked at, right now we're about 25,000 or so above where we initially had planned it when we first put the furniture plan in place. So, yes. Chris and I are working on cleaning up a little bit of how that's, the capital expenditures around that. But overall, I think, I don't know if we need to make a motion to this, but since we've already aligned on the furniture plan, but my recommendation is that we move on this quote for right now so that will get the majority of the primary, the primary seating areas in Maine taken care of. So David, I don't know, do we need to make a motion to approve it or just give marching orders?
Yeah, well, those are good questions. Let's get to that in just a minute. I do have some questions in terms of sort of phase two. So phase two is completing everything that would be part of really the seating areas for Maine and Woods, or is it just Maine?
Just Maine.
Woods is yeah, just Maine. Woods is, I think, Janice, I haven't heard anything differently, but Woods we are good with. That was all laid out in phase one.
Yeah, we completed everything that was in the original Woods plan. Woods is now looking at some additional new plans for the children's room and also for the basement area. I know that basement has been talked about, but there weren't any concrete plans formed for it yet. Isn't that right, Nancy? So that it involves a little bit more of a commitment to the design service, the architectural, because it's might involve like moving walls and stuff.
Yeah.
So that has not been formed out yet. As far as Maine, this will cover the rest of the first floor area, except for the periodicals room, which is phase 3, along with the study carrels in the lower area.
Yeah, so what I have as identified as phase 3 is periodical for Maine specifically. The periodicals area, the grand hall, the fireplace room, and the basement. That's what I currently still have as phase 3.
Okay. So in regards to phase 2, I guess the question is, do we need to place the order for all of it at once? I know that, there's a significant amount of inflation and still supply chain that is, taking, that's affecting a lot of things. So I guess as a board do we want to move forward with placing an order for phase 2 this year? I think that's going to go over
excuse me,
our amount in terms of.
Excuse me, I may have misunderstood. But the last time that we talked about the furniture orders, you had said that the overall amount had already been approved, so you didn't need to approve each.
Yeah, I agree with Jan. Dave, this is not really up for a vote. We've already approved the expenditure of $225,000, and plus we have the typical 1 to 2% that we can draw.
It's not a new amount.
Yeah, it's not a new amount. This is
not a new amount. This is rephasing.
Just giving you an update.
This is moving
so
stuff
you know
around.
where we stand, but this is not something that's up for a vote. It's already been approved at this stage.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And so therefore
I thought
the
there
order
was an
has
additional
already
amount.
been placed.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it was more on me pulling it in, shifting more up front to the from back half to front half. So yeah, I think we're more or less.
Exactly.
Jan, what that is we should be, we're good to place that order because I think prices aren't going to go down. Let's be frank there.
Then, in addition to that, in terms of phase 3, is phase 3 something that you'd be looking at probably towards the end of this year to place the order, but take delivery in 2023? What do you think of?
No, I would say we're still looking at the back half to to take delivery. We built that into the plan. So
Okay.
it's not. This isn't a change in terms of what I was saying is there is some additional that I think it's still within sort of the buffer that Chris and I had built in, so we should still be fine with that unless there's significant increases. But I think what we're finding is that as with each phase, we're kind of sharpening the pencil on what's needed, and then once we can put the furniture plan to bed, then we can move towards those other things at Woods, like the basement, the children's area, that we can start to focus that on, and then we're not dealing with it. That's, there will be furniture related to that, but that's a completely different ask.
Right.
Versus refreshing the furniture, which I think if we we can get that done within 2022, I think that's ideal.
Okay, that makes sense. Scott, you and I talked briefly at the beginning of this last week about this. Do you have any additional thoughts on furniture based on what Andrew's plan is?
No, I think moving ahead with what we have so far is a good idea. And then, after we kind of get through what's already planned, I would like to sit down with the group and reassess. But for right now, I trust the work that Jan and everybody has done. So
yeah, and we really, Chris, we do not need to take a vote. If you're ready to place that order, then by all means.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go forward. I believe on the quote it says it was valid for 30 days. So if we could do that in the near future, just before that quote expires, Jan.
Well said.
Great. And thank you for managing a lot of that detail. I mean, that's a lot of work, so really appreciate it. Thank you, Andrew. And Jan.
Yes, thank you, Jan.
Any other input on the space planning or any questions to Andrew? Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. We're going to move over to the library report. Scott and Jan.
okay, so I'll start with COVID updates. A little bit more this month than usual. We continue to monitor the situation. Our goal is to continue to provide transactional services through this wave. While we will not be pausing programming, we will be switching some programs to virtual if staff or programmers request it. Libraries in the state and region have been closing due to staff positives, which is a possibility we are prepared for here in Fairfield. We have had some positives among staff and are following CDC guidelines. It literally lives on my desk because I get a call almost every day. So we're following those guidelines, and we also are seeing some stress from staff due to child and elder care. So we have some staff members where they're not testing positive, but someone they take care of does test positive. We want them home for their families. So I keep saying to the board, just if once we lose too much capacity, we may need to roll back things, including closing locations. We are requiring masks now in children's areas and during all programming. We are working on a plan to provide curbside when requested. We are starting to get those requests again. And I just really want to commend the staff here. They're taking on a very balanced and measured approach to our current situation. Not a lot of panic, just a lot of thought out plans and thinking, wanting to do our best to provide services when we can, how we can safely. So, right now it's really, it's day to day, but we're paying attention to everything and being very deliberate in all of our decision making. Then I want to talk about statistics. Nothing, I'm still working out statistics, how they're going to look, but this is one number I wanted to share. Visits to both locations have increased even over the holiday season. For most libraries, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you tend to see a decrease in visits and usage. We actually didn't this year. We're averaging about 40 visits per hour compared to November when we were looking at about an average of 35 visits per hour. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good for a library. That growth is really good. I'm interested in seeing how extending our hours is going to impact that. We will see a growth in how many people are walking in the door, but I think it's important to kind of look at those average visits per hour, because they will kind of give us a better idea of kind of our services and the services we're providing. Then in terms of services, and programs, I'm going to hand this part over to Jan.
Thank you, Scott.
So as you all know, we announced our One Book, One Town selection on last Thursday in front of this Sacred Heart Community Theater. The selection is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and he will be visiting us on March 1st, God willing. And we have a number of events coming up that go along with that. There's weekly sketch challenge in February. There are book groups. There's the traditional writing and mixed media contest, or it always was a writing contest. Last year, it was expanded to include mixed media as well. So we're doing that again because it really worked out really well. Dr. Schenker will be giving his lecture. Thank you to Christine for coming to the event, representing the board. Also, Brenda was there, of course, to announce the title. Tony Wang and Kristen McCarthy-Vahey were in attendance as well. And we broadcast it live on Facebook and Instagram. So that was fun. The weather cooperated very nicely. So some of the programs, as Scott said, are switching over to virtual. The book group that meets at the Bigelow Center is going strictly virtual. Another book group is going hybrid using the OWL. We're going to still have craft classes in the makerspace, but they're very small groups, no more than 6 people, and masks are mandatory now. The tax preparation begins at the end of January. VITA, the volunteers who do the tax thing, but they have a whole protocol for safety in doing that. So we'll see how that goes. The teen and children's departments have begun their winter reading challenge. The Friends are sponsoring their prizes for that. And the big prize is a hat. If you are a teen or a child and you read 500 minutes, gain 500 points, you will receive your choice of one of those hats.
Nice.
Children's programming is still going strong in person, and they've added another pre-K program, which people have been very happy about. There's also an adult reading challenge going on throughout the whole year. I hope that you've all heard about this. And Nancy will tell you a little bit more about that, since that's one of her pet projects.
So before I talk about that,
We lost your audio, Nancy.
can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Sharon texted me to say that all of our OBOT books went out, every single one.
Great.
And we had about, 50 of them, James? We had a lot. They all went out. So our adult reading challenge, thank you, Scott, is holding up our coveted journal. So the Adult Services Department is really excited. Claudia Silk came to us with the idea of doing a year-long adult genre challenge. We are, as you know, usually we are part of the summer reading challenge, but it is very child and teen centered. So we wanted something that was going to be strictly for adult, that had a more of adult look to it. So the idea is very simple. We are going to be using Beanstack, which if you've done summer reading in the past, you'll know what that is about. Each month you will have a genre to read, and the genre is already picked by the staff. So right now in January, we launched it January 1st. We're already up to 135 participants. About 11 to 12 of them are staff members. So that's a lot of patron participation. When you join, you get a welcome digital badge, and the first 100 people got the journal that Scott just held up, and you will also get a pen. Everyone will get a pen. Once you start in January, each one is a different theme, different genre. So January's is all about self-help, self-awareness. So if you read one book from that genre, you're automatically entered into a monthly drawing that will happen at the end of every month. If you go above and beyond, if you read all 12 genres, you will get a bookmark. If you read one book per month, if you read one book, just one book, you'll get a bookmark. And then if you read one book, one of each genre, you'll get all 12 digital badges, and you'll also get a tote bag. If you read 5 books from the genre every month, and you have to read 5 in each genre each month, you will be eligible for a coffee mug. And if you read 10 books each month of all 12 genres, you will be eligible for a sweatshirt. So we already have a lot of people participating.
Awesome.
And there is also a little brochure that you can collect at the library. And when you finish, you can come in and get the physical badge. It's like a little sticker that you can put that is replicated of the digital badge that you'll get through Beanstack. We do have accommodations for people who like really don't want to use computers at all. We're not really promoting that heavily, but if someone comes in and says, you know, I want to join the challenge, but I don't know anything about Beanstack, I don't have a computer, we do have a mechanism by where we can log them ourselves. So we hope people join. And you can go back. Like if you find out about it late, you can go back to January. Like say you started in March, you can go back and do January, February challenge. The new genre will not get unlocked until the month that it is highlighted. That was a lot of stuff.
I just want to say that all the prizes are being sponsored by the Friends as well. And many of them are being made in our makerspace, just about everything. The journals were personalized with the Reading Challenge logo in the makerspace. So we're really making good use of that as well.
That's cool.
That's terrific.
Great idea.
And all the badges, they were custom designed, the digital badges, so they have more of an adult feel to them. If you've done summer reading in the past, it does tend to be heavily child-like looking, so as much as they try. So these are more adult looking. That's that.
Well, thank you, Nancy. That's a significant like change and improvement since the last reading challenge. So way to go. Those are some really amazing like new features. Very exciting.
Nancy, did you want to say something about the teen area at Woods, the move?
No, we're not there yet. So we're not there yet. We're in the middle of transitioning.
Nothing to see here. Okay.
So
okay, very good. So Scott, back to you. Is that cover your area for the operations report, or is there more that you were going through?
got a little bit more. Sorry, this was a busy month.
Please.
So the draft budget has been presented to the budget director of the town, who is an Albany transplant. So it's good news. We will be meeting with the first select woman, the CFO, and the budget manager in person. Jan and I will be meeting with them on the 27th. The Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance will hold separate budget hearings during March and April. We'll keep you updated to the dates in which those happen.
Okay.
And then the representative town meeting, RTM, will hold budget hearings in early April. We will make sure the board is aware of the timeline as it develops and everything that we plan to do when it would be good to have some of you there with us. I would suggest the board invite members of the Board of Finance for a tour towards the end of February. The staff will work out all the details, figure out who to invite, do the whole plan, but it's definitely more appropriate if the invite comes from the trustees.
Okay. That sounds really good, Scott. Let's see if we can try to get, maybe a 3-week lead time for people's schedules and something that's casual so they can come in, towards the end of the day. Maybe it's like 30 to 40 minutes. So it's really simple, socially distant, very easy. And we plan like a really great tour and just go through a few highlights. I think it would go a long way. It's a great idea.
So do I.
Okay.
The good news in this report, the library will expand hours on the 24th of January. Both locations will be open until 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. We made this decision based on staffing, so we've hired some new people. But also our entrance monitoring software, which is called, I forgot what it's called, but it's really an interesting software which not only monitors when people come in the building, but also monitors when people leave the building. And what we realized, at first we were kind of comfortable with these hours, and then we kind of switched it up. And we looked at people, when is the mass exodus from the building? And what we realized was, even though we saw, what we thought was modest kind of people coming in the door, they're staying until closing. It's really a lot. Most of those people are staying for an hour, 2 hours. We think this is the effect of the study rooms. And we do think we're going to have more people in the building and for longer if we keep the building open until 8 o'clock. So that's some really great news. On top of that, we will be permitting room rentals again, which will create some revenue for the library, which, the town will be happy to hear. And then the final piece is hiring has gone really well. We've gotten a lot of candidates. We've been doing a lot of interviewing. And our first person that we hired is our new administrative assistant. And she is a quick study and has been fantastic. And I think Nancy and Jan are really excited because some of the responsibilities she took, they took on, they will be able to pass on to Yulia fairly easily. And I'm excited and they're excited about it.
Congratulations. That's great news on all fronts. That's wonderful.
So that's it for our report. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, absolutely would love to hear them.
Great report, and the hours sound amazing. How are the study rooms? Have they've increased in terms of people signing up for them, or are they?
There was a little bit of a dip last month. We think a lot of the college students that use them were away, and also the high school kids, I think, were concentrating on the holiday and not so much studying. So there was a little dip, but it was not significant. But we will definitely cover study room use. That'll be our next highlighted statistics. So next month we'll talk about study rooms a little more.
It'll be interesting to see like times of the day, like over a month or over a 3-month period. Like, what are the popular times of the day? I know that there's probably different like demographics and different types of people that use them in the mornings, in the afternoon, the evenings, and all that. So that's great. I've used them a few times. They are awesome rooms. Great stuff. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to finance and budget. Now Scott is going to be covering this moving forward.
So the library spending on the town budget is in line with where we were last year. Spending on part-time staff is a little low, but that just has to do with the hours and staffing. That will be made up for when we switch hours and hire more staff. Income, of course, is low, but that will pick up once room reservations begin. And we're starting to see a little bit as circulation increases, and especially physical circulation increases, we're starting to see a little bit more income in terms of late fees.
Okay.
And that's really it so far for finances. I know David and I have talked, and we want to do a little bit more work on something that kind of looks like a P&L sheet or something close to that for how we spend, our capital fund money or our money from the board, and maybe incorporate some of the money that we're getting from the Friends into that report. And that's something I look forward to working on before we change the fiscal year.
That's great, Scott. And whether that's something that goes in QuickBooks or it's in a different system, if it's something that can be a consistent report, I think just having that on its own will be very helpful that we can point to, as opposed to, dozens of documents that we stitch together.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions for Scott with regards to finance and budget? Okay, thank you for that report. We're going to move over to Chris for the treasurer's report. Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys. Not much to report here. Markets, again, volatile, up and down, but for the most part, we're pretty much holding steady where we were at the end of Q4. I sent out, I think it was a little bit late. I apologize. I spent a lot of time with Andrew this afternoon going through the space planning stuff. So, Andrew covered that in the report, so I'm not going to double down on that considering how late it is. But safe to say, everything's in line with Vanguard. We're moving forward. It's the reason why we went with Vanguard. It just makes things a lot easier. Just pull it on up and go from there. And I think the only thing worth commenting on the space planning stuff is, that's in line. To be honest with you, we budgeted, I can't remember, $25,000 to $50,000 in that space, and we're well within that, that cushion that we had originally thought we would have to take in. So everything's progressing. Hopefully we'll be done with that, and we'll be able to move on to our next capital project within the next, say, 12 months or so. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Chris, quick question. In regards to the debt repayment to the town, with that schedule, it goes through the balance of 2023. Do you recall what is the last payment?
The date of the last payment.
You don't have to have the specific, but it goes through 2023, I believe.
It does go through 2023. Last payment is going to be 6/1/23.
Okay. And is the source of that funding, in addition to our dividends, is it coming out of Memorial or Jennings or the revolving fund?
Historically, it has been taken out of.
Or maybe the money?
It came out of our memorial funds.
It was the Memorial Fund. Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, we don't really touch Jennings, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, correct. Okay, that makes sense. Terrific. Any questions for Chris with regards to Treasury? All right, thank you, Chris. I don't see anyone from Friends, but Scott, I know that you and Jan are starting to attend their meetings, and the reason why we changed our annual calendar is that I think that theirs is the third week of the month. Is that correct? Their meeting's next week? Okay, terrific. If there's any update, let us know. Otherwise, we will hold on any update from the Friends until next meeting. Okay. Then we'll move over to new business. I don't have any items to add to that. Are there any items that anyone wanted to raise with regards to new business? The floor is yours.
I got a quick question, just thinking about that awesome work being done using the makerspace for those prize items. I think that is so awesome. Now I'm definitely going to sign up for the adult because like I really want one of those sweatshirts.
You got to join the program.
I know, no, I'm going to sign up for it for sure. My question was, have we ever, I know it's probably not a big want maybe, but have we ever had like branded merchandise for sale? I know we have those posters that we've all got. Just wondering if it's, I know Friends would maybe work more with that area in terms of as a fundraiser, but just wonder if we've ever done like hats, shirts, sweatshirts, things like that. Just wondering.
We've done the tote bags, but you know, with our logo on them, we sell those at Cirque. But that's about it.
What about the bumper stickers, Jan? Where do you get those? Remember, you see I see Kristen McCarthy Vahey has an I love my my library FPL or something like that.
I think at one time the Friends had something that they were using,
Friends
and then
did it.
sometimes for OBOT we get those.
Okay.
Depending, like when we had the books for life, books for living, books for life, we had one that said, "What are you reading?" and it had FPL on it. But it's an idea. Maybe the Friends want to think about that for fundraiser.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it because I know I would buy some merchandise just to be supportive and to show my support when I'm around town. I don't know.
That's
just
a great idea.
I mean, and I'm always thinking of marketing. That's why.
Yeah.
Well,
any
probably,
you know, sort of branded merch like a hoodie or a hat. There we go.
Too, right?
Those right
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Just wondering.
The only other time was when we had the 50th.
We lost you again, Nancy.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, when we did the 50th anniversary of Woods, we sold T-shirts, and those we made with the makerspace, and
Those T-shirts were really cool too. Those were great. I think one thing with like merchandise is that the library would not want to have to manage like lots of inventory. Maybe it's a small item, like, or maybe it's like one item. Maybe it's a T-shirt or it's a hat. But Board and Scott and staff, maybe that's something to, you know, add to, you know, a new project for the, you know, the capital investment, something like that. It's a cool idea.
Just a thought. I think Westport, I don't know if Westport does it. I know they have like a little gift shop that they were promoting the hell out of for the holiday, where they had various books and items and stationery and pens and all this other stuff, which I thought was pretty cute. But I don't know if it's more of a seasonal thing, you know, than anything else.
I would think right now the big thing right now are like stickers for thermoses and coolers and stuff like that. That's
And
probably
drink bottles.
Yeah, it's probably like a cheap entree into this whole thing, right? And see if there's any
laptop covers,
any interest, and then from there scale it up into something else. But I think that's probably
Sticker's a great idea.
It was
Yeah, I think
definitely
that's
done
probably the lowest
before.
hanging
I was
fruit.
reminded, I mean, Kristen has one on her. I've seen it before. It's like, it's on her window. So if
We should
anybody
just take the
knows,
window and see what it looks
yeah,
like. We'll
yeah.
kind of
Let
just
me
cut it right on out. And
How about like a
Like, I
Nike
gotta
hoodie,
drive
like
by your house and take a photo of it. So, or actually send a note to have her send. Yeah. Yeah.
well, look at what's the item you're wearing? That's like a Fairfield to you, like
Yeah, it is.
that's pretty cool. That would be neat.
Fancy.
And
True.
and something that's like, a brand like Nike or, even, Under Armour, people would buy it.
Mhm.
So I'll say that my previous library, we did merch. It was very popular. And
Yeah.
actually on Friday, my lucky pair of socks is Bleecker the owl. We have an owl. The owl was there before me, but we actually got a costume, like a I was the owl a lot in the beginning.
Oh,
Nobody else would do it, but they knew I love for the owl, so the foundation actually made socks with the owl on it, and I wear those. Those were my lucky socks. So I would, if we had socks with an exclamation point on it, and Fairfield Public Library, those would become my lucky socks. So
You belong here.
you
Like
belong
the
here with an
socks.
exclamation point.
I love the sock idea too, Scott.
Yeah, pretty cool. Good stuff. Well, let's think about it. I think, Jill, it's a great idea.
Just a thought. It's because I'm
All right,
proud. I
well,
like to wear things that I'm proud of, that I
Yeah.
participate in.
For sure. Are there any other items that anyone wanted to add for new business? All right. Well, I wanted to ask, would anyone like to make a motion? I always mess this last one up. Such a long day. All right. Let me take a sip of water.
David, I'd like to move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second that motion, Chris Rogers, all in favor? Okay, terrific. Lori, we're going to timestamp this at 8:13, adjournment. Thank you all. Happy January. Best wishes for the rest of this month. Thank you very much. And we will see you again in February.